Hello everybody. I don't know why I was asked to give a presentation, but I'm honoured to be here. I've been involved with the Soot River Catchment Forum for the last 2 years or so. I have been despondent at times, but I'm cautiously optimistic because I am seeing change. I am seeing, despite what people say in the press about what's happening in the Helderberg, I'm seeing significant improvements. I'm seeing a situation where, to my mind, there was good reason to criticize the city on the water and sanitation side 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, but they've been working very hard and they have actually been solving problems. And I'm convinced that our areas will be much better within the next 4 or 5 months. That means that our rivers are going to be better, because one of the real reasons why our rivers are polluted is because of sewer contamination. And that sewer comes from blockages caused in the informal settlements, and it comes from structural defects and lack of maintenance. But I do believe that the city has been unfairly criticised in our area, and while I do believe there's a lot that all of us can and should do better, I want to say thank you to the city for what they have done for us in the Soot River Catchment Forum over the last while. We're a peculiar catchment. We have a very short river. It has a section going through Somerset West, which is beautiful and clear. It's lovely water. It then goes through Nomzamo, Luandle, Asanda. In 2 or 3 different streams, it becomes heavily contaminated. It then runs through some very neglected wetlands before going into an underground culvert, which runs underground for about 300 meters. And then it flows out through where I live, Greenways Golf Estate, into the sea. That river, when I bought my house in Greenways Golf Estate 8 years ago, was crystal clear. It was actually lovely. And then all of a sudden, particularly over COVID, it started deteriorating terribly, because we had a massive influx of informal settlements and people building right on the river and in the river and invading the detention ponds. And we're dealing with those challenges. But while there are challenges, we have tried to work with the city as best we can. I think the city has been very accommodating, and we are making progress. So what I'm going to do is spend 2 minutes just taking you through some of the key challenges we've got, and they're pretty similar to what we've all got. And I'll just tell you a little bit about what progress we've made. But then I thought, we all have the same problems. Let me talk about something that you might not have been exposed to, and maybe you might want to become exposed to in the future. And that is sort of a nature-based solution that we've implemented on the lower section of the river, Soot River, where we're using nanobubbles, oxygenation, we're using microbes, and we've transformed that lower section of the river. I walked past there this morning. The ducks are happily swimming everywhere. It's a nice brown, healthy color. Standing on 1 or 2 of the bridges, I could actually see the bottom of the river. And that is very different to what you'll see upstream. So these solutions do work. I know that Scientific Services has been studying them for the last 18 months. I'm hoping they're going to issue their report in the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping it's going to be a positive report. And I'm hoping that the city will then consider rolling out those types of solutions, because particularly where we are, it's so difficult to treat the water when it's running through a channel a meter wide with shacks on both sides. It's very difficult, but nature-based solutions work by themselves if they're applied right. So very quickly, and I don't want to take up too much time, we have challenges like everyone else. Our big challenge is solid waste. We have solid waste everywhere. What has happened over the last year, which is very positive, is through pressure from ourselves and the city. Sunrail, who owns a lot of the land that's been invaded by the informal settlements, has come to the party, and Sunrail has started to do a lot of cleaning. The city has done a lot of cleaning. council is getting involved in doing a lot of cleaning. We've got Greenways, who does a lot. We've got Iwasa, who has given us sponsorships. We've got Helderberg Ocean Awareness Movement, Lisa Starr, who's very involved. We've got community representatives. We had a community cleanup together with the city on the 31st of October, and we had about 400 people there. And with 400 people, you can make a significant difference just for 4 hours. 400 people, 4 hours, target an area, and you can make a difference. So it's ongoing. I think the areas are a lot cleaner now than it was, to be quite honest. The litter interceptor that's been put in one leg of the river, to my mind, is unbelievably effective. The problem we have at the moment is our river flows through 10 sections of culverts, all of which are blocked. And those culverts need to be unblocked, because if you unblock the culverts, the litter interceptors will do what they need to do. They will capture the trash. But at the moment it builds up at the culverts, and then the water flows over the road and it floods the areas. So there's a lot that we're doing. We are hoping to get more skips, containers, cages in those areas. There are practical problems. While I know the city has door-to-door collection services, there are practical difficulties. There's only certain things that can be collected during those processes, and anything that can't conveniently be collected there is just dumped next to, or some people even think they're doing us a favor by dumping it in the river, because then you can't see it. So there's a lot of education to take place, and that's all happening. So I'm feeling rather hopeful on that. Sewer spills into the river, as I say, there was one, there was a big one that's been going on for a couple of weeks on one leg of the river. The city is addressing it. They address it on a regular basis. Hopefully there will be a final solution to that. But in my experience, when I first started getting involved, I was reporting and I was doing C3s, and it would take 2 weeks for somebody to action it. I now, through my interactions with the city, I do a C3, I then escalate it. I have the local area manager who's responsible for sewer leakages, and I have the inspectors on WhatsApp. I can WhatsApp them, I can send them the C3 number, they get in touch with the depot gives them feedback, they give me feedback, it works. So you have sewer leaks being addressed fairly quickly. We had a big sewer leak of 10,000 litres an hour of sewer going into the Soot River for a long time. It's been solved. So there are lots of good things to say there. There are still problems, but there are good things to say. Night soil going into the river is really an issue. We have detergents, oils, fats. At one stage, in my section of the river, you could see a thick oil slick over the top of the river. Sometimes it was black and sometimes it was clear. And it's clear to me that there were scrapyards, for example, dumping oil from engines into the stormwater system, which then found its way into the river. There were fish and chip shops dumping oil. There were all sorts of places. We've worked with the city has appointed inspectors. The black water that we used to have coming in has largely disappeared. The oil that we're getting on the river has largely disappeared. Sometimes there's a little bit of a stick, but most of the time it's disappeared. So there's a lot of work that has been done, and credit must be given for that. The block culverts, as I say, it's my big bugbear, and it's my priority for this year to make sure those are cleared. Accumulated sludge, the city's doing a good job there. They have machinery in the wetlands at the moment doing a good job of thinning out, of restoring flow, of removing 20 years of trash that's accumulated in those reeds. That project will be finished by the end of this month, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then we have my next priority is this underground culvert where the river flows underground for 300 meters. It comes out where I live in Greenways. You can't access it from upstream because it's a drop-down culvert, and then it drops down sort of 10 meters or 5 meters, and then it flows from there. But from the Greenway side, you can walk up there where there's low flow, and it's hugely contaminated. So I'm hoping I can convince the city to use some hydrogen peroxide, which actually is very effective at disinfecting those culverts. But that's another discussion, and I'm sure I'll have a hard time, but I'm planning to do it. And then we've got bioremediation, which is implemented in the lower section of the river, and which I'm hoping will be implemented elsewhere. So having said that, our catchment, I think, is in a much better situation now than it was. I found if you work with the city officials, they are very happy to cooperate. ASLA has been putting in, I think you're all aware, they've been putting in, on behalf of the city, a new sewer line, taking the Gordons Bay sewer out, diverting it from the Truckies line. That work's been ongoing for 2 years. As part of that, they have been working in the river. They've had a tunnel underneath the river, so they've had construction works going on in one leg of the river for a long time. They're almost finished, and I can see them starting to tidy up. So I reached out to the project manager for ASLA, and I said to him, can I get you to meet with me and with the city officials to discuss how you're going to fix this pond that you've been working in? How are you going to shape it? How are you going to restore it? How are you going to make sure there's flow? Which culverts are going to stay open? Which ones aren't going to stay open? And within 48 hours, the meeting took place, and it was a great meeting. And so if you reach out, I find that you can make a real difference. But we just need to be proactive. So having said that, this photograph that you're seeing here with the blue water is one of my worst nightmares. That was the degree of contamination that was in this lower section of the Sud River a couple of years ago. The water had actually turned blue. That's not really healthy blue. That's worse than grey. That's worse than black. That's a terrible, terrible colour. When the water reached that stage, Greenways, which is the sort of golf estate around the lower section of the river, we decided we got no choice. You couldn't live next to that river, you couldn't breathe. So we started investigating alternatives, and we investigated a lot of alternatives. And we had all sorts of people giving us really silly proposals which nobody could afford, and we had some which I just didn't think would work. And then I found a technology in the States which I thought would work, but it wasn't available in South Africa, so I reached out to the States and asked them if they would send some of that technology to South Africa without us buying it, and they laughed at me, and we worked with them. But we did, we implemented a bioremediation plan there. We started off, that was, you can see the distinct flows that come, this was where the river came into Greenways before we started. You can see the distinct flows that are there. That's the right hand culvert is the right hand flow of the river, the other one's the left hand flow. And if I play this video, you'll see there's different flows everywhere. It was really a nasty, nasty situation. That was the blended sort of downstream condition of the water before we started. We'd taken the river level down as low as we could then to try and start with a fresh start when we did the bioremediation. And our approach was very simple. We wanted to initiate and maintain healthy biology. We wanted to get the dissolved oxygen of the water coming into that river was about 0.2. We wanted to get the dissolved oxygen in that section of the river up to 8 or 9 or 10. We wanted to get to a situation where you could actually see we reduced the turbidity. We wanted to reduce the E. coli levels. We wanted to reduce the nitrites. We wanted to improve all of that by applying nanobubbles and by applying microbes, which have been approved internationally and which are used internationally and which have been used in other rivers in South Africa by the City of Cape Town and others in the past. For those of you who don't know, a nanobubble is simply an oxygen bubble, but not like a normal air bubble. A normal air bubble rises to the surface fairly quickly, and the smaller it is, the longer it takes to get to the top. A A nanobubble is 2,500 times smaller than a grain of salt. And you can't see them. But because of their shape, because of their size, because of their structure, they don't rise to the surface. They float and they attach to the riverbed and they oxygenate the riverbed. And so you have oxygen on the riverbed and they stay in the river for months. Really, they don't just disappear. So I looked at this technology and I wasn't 100% convinced, but we started with it, and we started with a very simple trial. We didn't buy the equipment, we took it on, we paid a trial fee, so a once-off trial fee, on the basis that if we were happy with the trial, then we would buy the equipment at an agreed price. But if we weren't happy, they took their equipment and they disappeared, and that was it. All we started doing was we just started taking water out of the river. You can see we just put temporary little shade cloth around an area to try and create a suction area that was clean enough for us to suck water out through. We then put it through a nanobubbler, which is on the right here, and we put that same water back into the river at the top where the culvert is. So we were literally taking water out, putting it back. We struggled like hell to get a clean enough suction area to be able to make sure that this worked. But we battled through it, and literally, I mean, we had the estate manager and myself were probably spending 15 hours a day on this for quite a while. Within 24 hours of us starting, you will see all of this stuff on the top. This is essentially the muck that was on the bottom of the river, which was being lifted and broken down. When it rose, it didn't have any smell, and this river flows very slowly in summer, and this is where we did the trial when the river's at its worst. It takes sort of 10 minutes for the water to flow through the river, and almost within 10 minutes, this muck on the top breaks down, so that when it flows out onto the beach, it's fairly clean. Before we started this, we had a thick, black, oily stain that went all the way across the beach into the sea where this river flowed out. We had lots of clever people helping us. We had Dr. Kevin Winter, and we had other very clever people who know a lot more than I do about all of these processes. And they were doing scientific tests and so forth. Being a layman, I had a stick. And I stood on top of one of the bridges that ran over the river, and I pushed the stick as deep as I could into the riverbed. And before they started, it came out with about 40 centimeters of thick, black, oily mud on the stick that you couldn't get off. I took a high pressure spray and I tried to get it off. So there was 40 centimeters of mud there. Within a couple of weeks of us starting, we saw material improvements. You can see how much is left in there. You can see the bioactivity on the surface of the water. That sparkling is what we look for. Yes, that the sparkling on the water, you know you've got decent bioactivity. We then, within 5 days, bird life, which hadn't been anywhere near the river for a long time, started to return, cautiously, but they started to return. They actually started to migrate from the dams that we've got on the estate. The ducks started to migrate from there towards the river, and they were cautious, but they were there. And we battled on, and we finally started to get the ducks. Over the period, just for those who are interested, the chemical oxygen demand, 79% reduction from inlet to mouth discharge. That's over a period of 300 meters. 300 meters. But what we're doing is we are taking that water, we are now taking the water from the bottom of the river, where just before it flows into the sea, and we are pumping about 50% of that water back up to the top of the river, continually, and we're continually oxygenating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and through that process we get very substantial reductions. We dissolved oxygen levels This is when we first started. Our dissolved oxygen levels went right up to around 6 or 7 very quickly. They have stayed there. They go down when we have sewer leaks or when we have other problems. Turbidity, 67% reduction in the river turbidity. You could actually start seeing the bottom of the river. These samples here are samples that I went with somebody else to go and collect. So the left is the upstream wetlands. We just literally took a bottle and we picked up some of the water from there. Then we took it at the inlet, the culvert, where it comes out from the underground culvert into Greenways. We took a sample, and then we took a sample at the discharge on the beach. And these samples were taken within 25 minutes of each other. And that's what we achieved within 11 days of bioremediation. There was a lot of time and effort put into it, and we were being very aggressive. But that to me is the most remarkable. The smell disappeared. The clarity started to come back. The bird life. My dog, which I take for a walk every day, my dog refused to go anywhere near the river for a long time. My dog and I now go for a walk up and down the river, and he tries to taste the ducks that are on there. It's a different place, and it can be done. So I'm hoping that we can get to that sort of situation. Just so that you're aware, the way we're running this now is we pump water from the bottom of the river through a pipe up to the top of the river. But instead of putting it in the river, we put it into this pond which we've got. So that's a bioremediation pond we've got. It's got 3 sections to it. We put the water in the first section. When it comes up, it's already been oxygenated. So we've got an inline nanobubbler that injects oxygen into it. It goes oxygenated water into there. It flows through these channels, which are full of biochar, which are essentially very good growth mediums for colonies of microbes and so forth. And then it flows out into the last section of the pond. So it goes in there, flows through there, comes out here, and then about 30% of the water goes down the waterfall very slowly into the river. The other 70% is sucked out of this pond by those 2 pipes. It's put into those 2 machines, which are nanobubblers, and we re-oxygenate it, and then we pump that water into the top of the river. This runs 24 hours a day. Our costs, yes, capital costs are expensive. Capital cost of what we've done is probably 2 million rand. Our running costs average, and it's everything. Our running costs average about 9,000 rand a month in winter and around 35,000 rand a month in summer. It's money, but it's not the end of the world money when one looks at the significant difference that the technology can make. And this type of thing could be applied anywhere. To my mind, if you've got areas where you've got huge accumulated sludge, you're far better off trying to use this type of technology to eat that sludge than trying to dredge it out. Anyway, I thought that might be interesting to you. That photo on the right, the ducks, is one which I took the other day. That's not a perfect river. It's really not, but it's significant. It's livable within where I am, and it's improving further upstream. Thanks to a lot of work for everybody. So, just what I've learned through this bioremediation process, we did get very quick results from anaerobic to aerobic within the first week. We got lots of hydrogen sulfide abatement, significant sludge reduction. As I say, the sludge was all eaten within the first 6 months, and it stayed gone. When we have the sewer inflow into the river, you can actually see it. The sewer inflow comes in, it forms a crust, immediately it reacts to the surface, it starts breaking down. It does cope with ever-changing loads and multiple flows. It even copes with seawater inflow into the river, which we get not often, but when there's a spring tide, we'll have some inflow into the river. That doesn't deal with that, doesn't destroy the process. Having a clean suction area is important. That's why we developed the pond, so we can control it. We packed the biochar in the pond. We bought lots of biochar and we put it in the pond. Big mistake. So we had to empty it all out. We then repacked it into bags which don't biodegrade, and we packed those bags into the pond. And then we realized once again we made a mistake. So it's important when you put the biochar in there, it's important that you get flow through it. So we eventually ended up stacking them sort of almost like you would build a wall with holes in it. So we did that all the way through, so the water flows under through the biochar instead of over it. And the other thing, we were told that the biochar, it had never really been trialled in this type of environment. We were told it would last about a year, maybe a year and a half, and it's expensive. It cost us about 70,000 rand for the biochar we put in there. But 2 years later, still absolutely fine. No problems at all. So it's lasting a lot longer than anyone expected. Now, I'm not going to say anything more, but I hope that gives you some sort of broad ideas to some technology which is out there, which maybe we could consider using in some places when the situation is right. And I'm particularly thinking about where there's spills, because it is a very good way of addressing it. And if you have it could be used in pump stations, it could be used all over the place. So thank you for your time. I'm very grateful, and thank you to the city for all of your efforts. Thank you to lots of people. But I get despondent sometimes, but then I take a look around, and I look at photos I took a couple of years ago, and there is a difference. We are slowly but surely making a difference, which is what we all can only hope to achieve. Thank you, everybody.